Thank you very much. It is a real pleasure to be here. I am very, very excited and amazed, not surprised, because Marilyn sent me the email that she sent out to all of you. And when she started saying, "Oh, Kah, I've got 20 responses. Oh, Kah, I've got 30 responses," I'm not surprised by that because of the type of person that she is. And while she was standing here talking about me, I would say I would use almost exactly the same words to describe her. When I came in, Dr. Mo Anderson that I met said, I met Marilyn and she just kind of adopted me. And I could say exactly the same thing. We met in Pittsburgh at an International Women's Forum meeting, and she heard me speak and she came straight over. We met. And then we went down to Ecuador together. We happened to meet at the airport, actually, waiting for the little plane, the bumpy plane. In Ecuador, I actually facilitated a panel. And what she did not know at the time was that I was very, very much in my decision-making process for running for president. And after I facilitated my panel, and she was also a facilitator for another panel, she called me over and she said, "You know what, you have something extraordinary, and you need to make sure that you go for your full potential." And I tell you, there were a lot of things that impacted my decision, but having that kind of affirmation from somebody who I consider a big sister was really, really very strong. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Cameroon today. You all live and are citizens of a very wonderful country, okay? I'm here to inform you that it's not the most beautiful country in the world, because Cameroon is. Cameroon is in Central Africa. We are right in the crook of Africa, okay? Nigeria on one side, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, Chad are all countries that border us. So we're a country of about 19.4 million people, okay? We have been independent since 1960 for one part of the country, and 1961 for the other part, because we are specific in that we were colonized by both the French and the English. Actually, we were colonized by the Germans first, then they lost the war, and then we were colonized by the French and the English. And so you have these two states in Cameroon that came together to form what was at the time called the United Republic of Cameroon. That was 1960, 1961. It's a little bit embarrassing to say that 50 years later, we have only had 2 presidents in Cameroon. The first president was there for 22 years. His name was Ahmadou Ahidjo. And the second president is still there, and he's been there for 28 years. And by all indications, he wants to run again for president next year. Cameroon is a country with extraordinary economic potential. We have every resource that you can think of on the face of this earth. We have oil. We are really blessed in terms of agriculture. We're a country, our tourism slogan is Africa in miniature, because every ecosystem that you can find on the continent, you can find in Cameroon. So we have desert, we have rainforest, we have savanna, we have a coastline. It is really, really, I wasn't kidding when I was saying it's the most beautiful country in the world. So it's a country with extraordinary potential. Cameroon has one of the highest literacy rates on the continent. About 70% of our population is literate. We have the added advantage of being bilingual. So a good percentage of Cameroonians speak both French and English fluently. Cameroonians, there are a couple of them in the room here, are extremely good in the technical fields, mathematics, engineering, accounting, etc. And so we breed, high-level professionals, a lot of whom are unfortunately working in your country or in other countries around the world, because of the fact that we have been unable over these 50 years to really let that economic potential express itself and reach the heights that we can reach. Cameroon has stagnated over the last 10 years at somewhere between 3 and 4% economic growth. Now that sounds high for the US. It's low for Africa. The average in Africa is about 6% over the last 10 years. And you have countries like Angola that are doing 20%, Botswana that did 10% for 10 years straight. And so countries with similar potential to ours are doing much, much better economically. Cameroon also politically is a little bit of a paradox. So somebody asked me the question, is it a democratic country? Sort of. In the sense that we do hold elections. So we were a one-party state for close to 30 years. When the first president took over, he was afraid of political opposition, and so they became a one-party. We became a one-party state. But 20 years ago, Cameroonians fought to have multi-party democracy. We went out on the streets, we marched, we protested. Some of us lost our lives to be able to have multi-party democracy in Cameroon. And we did achieve that 20 years ago. However, since then, we've never really been able to have elections that are free of fraud and free of a lot of technical anomalies. So every election in Cameroon, we've had 3 presidential elections since then. Both the internal observers and the international observers have unfortunately had to write each time. There were problems in the registration process, there were problems in the voting process, and so on. And this is basically a manipulation by the government in place to keep its power. Fortunately, we have a fairly free media. Fairly free, I say not totally free, but you can go on television, radio, newspapers, and so on. You can analyze, criticize the system and even the leaders, and nothing happens to you. However, from time to time, the government will arrest somebody for doing what looks like the same thing that 100 other people were doing. That's a very effective form of repression, because then nobody knows where the line is, everybody steps back. So you keep people in check without actually having to be systematically, brutally repressive. However, those of us who are in the opposition and who are engaged in fighting for freedom and for democracy in our country, we take full advantage of that media opportunity. I'm really, and it's extremely powerful, because several of you in this room whom I've never met before met me and said, I saw a video of you on YouTube, and I read about you in so-and-so newspaper article. So it is very, very powerful in getting our message out there, and we try as much as possible to take full advantage of that. So let me tell you a little bit about these elections and the electoral system in Cameroon. We were supposed to, our constitution up until 2008 had term limits. 5 years for presidential candidate, renewable 1 time. So our president, who was elected in 2004, was supposed to be in his last mandate. We were supposed to have elections in 2009, and he was not eligible to run anymore. Well, he proceeded to changed the Constitution in 2008. Yes, a few people have heard this African story before. Proceeded to change the Constitution in 2008 because he does have a very large majority in the National Assembly, in our parliament, in our legislative body. Cameroonians really resisted this. People got out and protested. We have 10 major regions in Cameroon. People were in protest in 7 out of 10 of the major regions. We unfortunately lost close to 200 Cameroonians protesting because we did not want that constitutional change, and because we did not want, and we were tired of the economic and social situation in the country, which is rather bad. Unfortunately, he had the majority. He went ahead and changed the Constitution. So he removed the term limits. He can run forever and ever, amen. And he extended the mandate again to 7 years. So that's the reason we are now having elections in 2011. That electoral system has political aspects of it, which are really problematic. It also has technical aspects of it, which are really problematic. I'm going to focus on the technical aspects because that's where Friends of Cameroon can really have an impact. There are several key things wrong with our electoral system, technically speaking. One is voter registration. We are still, in 2010, carrying out manual voter registration. Almost every African country has been using biometric technology to register its voters. This is much more efficient. It eliminates fraud, because in our current system, you may find Kah Walla, Walla Kah, Kah Walla, Walla Kah, registered as 4 people. Okay, so biometric technology eliminates that method of fraud. It's a huge game changer for us in these elections. And our government does not have an excuse for not using this biometric technology, because other African countries are using it to carry out their elections. That's number one. Number two is, and biometric technology would allow that, the immediate production of my voter registration card. Right now, a Cameroonian who wants to register to vote goes to the registration center to register. They get a receipt, and they ask, well, when can I get my card? And the response you'll get is, well, we don't know. Stay at home and wait for the announcement. And so we got to come back to be able to get the registration card. And in case we, when you come back, it's not ready or it's not there, you have to go, travel across town and so on to be able to get your voter registration card. So we make this process as difficult as possible for the person who wants to register to vote. If we had biometric technology, I could walk in, register, walk out with my card.